Hello and welcome to the Dinosaw number 214, another 7 curious, interesting things I saw last week. So as ever, let's crack on. First one is ChatGPT, or at least it's a new feature of ChatGPT 03, a sub-feature really. People have discovered this. It can do GeoGuessr. So GeoGuessr is an online game where you get given an image and you have to then guess where it is in the world. And some people are awesome at it. Turns out ChatGPT is as well. So I've just uploaded 2 images. I've actually done 3 or 4 so far, and it guessed every single one of them. First one was from a recent visit, Salt Lake City. Another one is from Jordan, and it got both of those, as you can see. And it also gives you why it is kind of true. So it gives you like, I noticed this, the kind of stone was interesting, and blah, blah, blah. It's really interesting. Other reason it's interesting is if you've ever uploaded an image onto the internet, which of course you have through social media, then there is now an AI platform, i.e. ChatGPT, that can then look at any image and then figure out where you were. So even without metadata, as careful as you've been, it can probably figure out all about you and where you've been in the world. So you might want to think about that. This is Ben Jordan. He's a musician, and he's quite frankly a little bit pissed off that lots of music companies, AI companies, are stealing the work of musicians and creating models where they can then replicate it. So he's fighting back with adversarial noise. So he's hooked up with the University of Tennessee, who have Harmony Cloak, and there's some examples of some sort of, nefarious work going on here where you can trigger audio devices by hiding sounds in other sounds, and that's really what's at the heart of this. So he's poisoning these models by cloaking, for instance, a piano to sound like a flute, and you take the spectrum, you muck around with it a little bit, you kind of make it imperceptible to humans, but then when that it trains on it, what it thinks it's listening to is actually maybe classical music, but it thinks it's listening to drum and bass because you've cloaked it, you made it sound to the computer like it's drum and bass. Human ears don't hear this. So if you do that enough, obviously it starts to kind of really poison the training data. Needs lots of people to do this, and it's only really Ben at the moment, but it's really interesting. So it took him about 2 weeks to actually encode his album, so you can't hear it, but it still sounds cool. So we've got a ways to go yet, but the fight is on. This is a brand new color. It's called Olo, and there are terms and conditions to this color. It's got this tealy kind of bluey greeny color. Terms and conditions are only 5 people have actually seen it because they had to have lasers shone in their eyes. So the reason that's important is because you never normally see a pure color. So you've got red, green and blue perceptors, or at least most people who are not colorblind do. And if a image is shone or light is shone onto the back of the eye, you actually hit a bunch of receptors, whether it's red, green or blue. You never only hit red ones, green ones or blue ones. So your brain has never had to deal with that. It's unnatural. It will never happen. However, what they've managed to do is track the eye and pulse a laser at 100,000 times a second only to hit the green cones. It looks at the muscles and all sorts of stuff. And therefore, your brain has never had to interpret purely green signals coming in. And it turns out, it's subjective, obviously, only 5 people have done it. It turns out it's this color, and it's called Olo. The reason it's called Olo is because it's a bit nerdy, which is 0, 1, 0, so red, green, blue, lots of green, no red, no blue, Olo. However, where's this going in the future? Well, if you can start to stimulate these new, what they call synthetic colors, what else can you do? You start to have the vision of a mantis shrimp, and you can start to see lots of interesting things that other people can't see. You can hide things in the world that other people can't see, even though you can plainly see it, which is interesting. Assuming you've got lasers in your eyes. This is Shahram Azidi and colleagues showing off the latest Android XR platform. It's kind of interesting. Yeah, it's great. You can now use AI and XR all in one go. There's 2 things I thought were mostly interesting about this. It's a TED Talk, obviously. It's kind of interesting. However, the Google glasses are one thing. You still can't get these Google glasses. They're millions of dollars and they're not going to let you have them. However, by wearing them, it fuses AI. Essentially, you can start talking to them and you can just have a conversation. It works out what you're looking at. You can get directions as you're walking down the street. It recognizes people, hand gestures, all that sort of stuff. But the second thing I thought was interesting is there was one demo where there's that shelf behind them with some stuff on it. Somebody walked past it and then a couple of minutes later said, oh, what was the book on that shelf? Even though it wasn't looking at it, and it memorized what it had seen before. So it has kind of a world persistence view as well, which is really interesting. What would you do with that? Nefarious stuff. Anyway, this is a thing, who'd have thunk, that are potentially ferries or large ships in the future might be air powered. Now, I did think, why? But this, obviously, pollution of diesel is a thing. And if you then said, why don't you just use electric and batteries? Well, you've got all of the issues with the batteries, especially with water, but there's a lot of pollution goes into making a battery as well. If you could just use solar energy or wind or whatever it might need to be, renewables, to then get a compressor, to then put the compressor into essentially a large air tank in a ferry, then you can then use a pneumatic turbine to then use the ferry. So if it's on a sort of regular route where you can get this airline attached every couple of goes, whatever, then apparently this is a viable thing. It will pay for itself in 8 years, as opposed to a diesel engine with almost no pollution whatsoever. And yeah, kind of interesting. Didn't even think of air powered. Obviously, what you're creating here is a ginormous bomb, but you know, whatever. Netflix have got new subtitles, and it's kind of as interesting, more interesting than you think. So normally if you have subtitles on, and apparently 50% of Americans watch content with subtitles on, I do occasionally. However, the reason the subtitles at the moment is closed caption, so it'll then say, for instance, it'll start to then talk about what the audio is, like applause or, you know, loud gunshot, etc., etc. So a lot of people just want to hear the dialogue, or just want to confirm the dialogue. So they're listening to it, but just to hear what people are actually saying. So there's a new option, which is not full subtitles. It's basically dialogue only subtitles. So it hasn't been launched yet, but that's coming soon. So if you're one of those people, this is a new subtle change to subtitles. I thought it was kind of interesting. And finally, we have Spermracing, live Spermracing. Yes, you can go to spermracing.com and you can live stream this. First event has happened. There was betting, there was all sorts of stuff. There was a big showdown at the beginning, like a boxing match. And what it was basically is two people, two men obviously, who had given a sample, and they do all the rigmarole. And then they've mapped this to what looks like a simulation. Obviously, it's not the real thing. But they've then said, which one is the most active, and then done a simulation of a race. One lost, one won. So well done to Tristan Milker, which I think is a hilarious name for the winner of this event. But really what it was trying to do, or what it was also trying to do, is draw attention to the dropping sperm rates in men, and therefore probably should take more care of yourself, and we need to look into that. Probably. But there you go. If you're interested, you can bet on it. It's live streamed, all that's good stuff. So why wouldn't it be? Hopefully that was interesting. Hopefully it was useful. If it was, give it a like. Maybe send it to somebody also interesting, and I will see you again next week.